everybody, welcome back to Taps Talk. I am your host, Marcus Ceballos Lewis, here with my co-host, Khadisa Muhammad. We're here today with Master A, talking to us a little bit about STEM and all about that, DIYs. If you just let us know a little bit about yourself, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here.
Problem.
It's awesome to see kids being involved and especially interested in STEM and making things on your own. So as you said, I'm Master A. My name is Alexander Angelares. I have a master's in education, particularly with secondary STEM, which means middle school through high school. I taught for about 5.5 years, almost 6 years, primarily in the middle school level. I coached a little bit at the high school level, so I have a little bit of experience with all levels in secondary.
Wow.
And this is essentially a hobby that I kind of put into my education while showing kids, how to do math and science.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just something that I'm very passionate about. So thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely, thank you for being here.
Right. So why do you think it's important that the youth learn STEM?
So STEM, it's not that they need to learn STEM, it's that STEM is all around us and it's understanding why it's so important, right? A lot of kids will sit in classrooms and say why am I learning this? Why is this so important? And it's because it's all around us. I mean, even the couches that we sit on are angled and the table that's in front of us and including this cornhole, right?
Right.
There's a lot of angles that go into it that you just don't understand because, instruction now is just stuck on paper. So what I used to do in my classroom, because I'm no longer teaching, is to take the paper and make it live. So how can I make it tangible? How can I engage your hands with your visual and your understanding in math? And so you can see how it works. And so that's why I think it's important, because it's all around us.
Absolutely. What would you say would be your first kind of inclination or gravitation towards STEM? Did it start as a childhood? Did you do it as a kind of a progressive thing as you got older?
So yeah, that's a great question. Growing up, STEM wasn't a thing. I grew up in the 90s, and my mom didn't have a lot of money to buy me a desk or anything like that. And so I remember my first DIY, I guess you can say, is a table. I needed a table to do my homework. I hated doing it where we ate at.
Yeah.
It was always dirty and I didn't feel like cleaning it. And so I said, I'm just going to make my own, table and to work on my homework. And so I found some wood and I got some nails and a hammer. And I knew that if I put those two together, something would stick. And I made a table,
That's amazing.
And so it was a crappy little piece of composite wood. It was just wood and it wasn't really that bumpy, but it was mine and I made it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was just something to me that was interesting. My dad is also, he works with big machines that make plastic. And so he would always give me these small projects hey, how can I turn on this light? And so, my dad, he worked at a lower end job and kind of worked his way up.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just appreciating hey, if you can do these basic things, everything could build and then you become an expert in it.
Right.
So yeah.
That's awesome.
So do you think that there are any misconceptions or things told to perhaps people of color or girls about STEM? And do you think that has any effect on their entrance into STEM fields?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of girls, even in my classroom, they like this kind of stuff, but they don't think it's attractive enough.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're afraid to get their hands dirty, or they think it's a boy's job.
Right.
And that's a negative notion, right? Because girls can do anything. Studies have shown that girls can think, a little bit outside the box than guys can, right? Guys are more impulsive, especially at the younger ages. But for some reason, guys like doing things with their hands too, and that's understandable, right? Because they're types of learners, right? Kinesthetic.
Right.
But girls can do it too. I mean, I'm here, I'm doing this. I know, I get the looks when I go to Lowe's or Home Depot, hey, do you know what you're doing here? Yes, I know exactly what I'm doing here, right?
Right.
But it's so fulfilling when I see girls or just anybody interested in asking me questions. I'm an open book, and if you go to anyone that builds things and you ask them, hey, how'd you do that? That's all people look for.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, definitely being a minority, you don't get exposed to things like this because you're so, you're kind of taught that, hey, you got to go do a 9-to-5 job to pay the bills. But this could be your 9-to-5 job, and you could just be making things.
Very
Right.
true.
So if one were interested in, say, making a cornhole, where could they find the materials to do this?
So you can find them anywhere. I have a website. It's called asquaredacademics.com. I also have free printable things. You can easily go online. That's where I started at. I put in a search engine. I said, hey, how do I DIY cornhole? easy, right? I always put easy.
Right, for
And
beginners.
exactly, right? I'm not an expert. So yeah, I put easy. So anything you want to do in DIY, easy, you'll find how to do anything.
Right.
And that's how I found it. People have like free plans, but the thing is, do you understand the math behind the plans? And that's where the STEM comes in, right? That basic math. If you can use a tape measure, then you can definitely build something.
Right.
And they teach you how to use a ruler, and that's essentially what a tape measure is. Back in like 4th grade, 5th grade, so anybody can do it. It's just do you want to spend the time to like relearn it, and refocus on that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so kind of lastly, like, what would you leave, our viewers with, younger audience that are trying to go into STEM, a little nugget of advice or wisdom,
Yeah.
On how to pursue that dream of theirs.
So anything in STEM, a lot of people think that STEM is just coding and online and do I know how to code and do I know how this works online? But you guys can take a step out of online and let's look at the basics, right? This is woodworking. Some schools offer woodworking and some, it kind of went away. There's also ceramics.
Mm-hmm.
Ceramics is woodworking as well. I mean, it's a form of woodworking, but now you're dealing with ceramics.
Right.
Art, right? 3D printing. 3D printing is a part of art. A lot of people don't know that. So anything you can think of that is tangible, that you can include science, right? Gravity. Gravity plays a lot, especially when you're making something like this, right? Because what goes up must come down. That's one of Isaac Newton's, 3 laws of motion. So that's science right there.
Yeah.
Technology, you got to use some kind of a hard machine to cut this out. That's your technology. Your engineering is putting it together. Your math is finding angles and cutting it and putting it all in one. So a lot of people don't know that STEM goes outside of programming. So anything can be STEM. You just got to be able to see how you can find those nuggets within it to hit all of the subject matters. But yeah, now I think STEM is starting to transform into what's called STEAM, and they're adding art to it.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
And that's something that you see here, right? So this can be considered art. This design can be considered art, and we put it together. So yeah, it's essentially STEAM. All right, guys. So now that we've kind of talked about STEAM, I would like to take you guys outside, get our hands a little dirty, use some safety, of course, while we're at it.
Awesome.
And
Let's go
I'm
for
going to
it.
go ahead and show you guys how to make one of these. You guys excited?
Yes,
absolutely.
looking
All
forward
right.
to it.
So I'm going to take you guys. Are you guys ready?
I'm
so
ready.
All right.
So
1, 2. All right, great. Well, thank you for meeting me outside. I know it was getting a little humid inside, so then we came outside. It's a little fresher.
cramped.
Just kidding. So let's do safety first before I show you guys exactly how to put this cornhole together. So let's put on our goggles, and of course we have our masks. I know that with working with wood, sometimes we get a little bit of particles within our nose and our throat, and so I don't want that to happen now. So these are a couple of my things. What I do to make cornholes. Anybody can make it. It's not that hard. But the big thing is if you have the right tools to do it with. And so the first thing here, this is actually called a miter saw. And a miter saw, right?
They're dangerous.
It is. And so what's really cool about this is that it has a rotating table. And so you see these right here?
Yeah.
This is where the math comes into play. Now, I don't know if you guys have taken geometry, but there's a lot of angles, right?
That's what it looked like.
And
for
so all of these angles are tied in, and so we know the 45 is half of 90 degrees, and so they're
Right.
going to my education background. But yeah, so this table rotates enough for you to get some corner and cuts.
Yeah.
If you look right here at this wood, this is the wood that I have for a chair, but we're not going to be doing that today, maybe another time.
Okay.
But what we're actually going to do is what's right over here, and this is the cornhole cuts. Everything begins with a huge plywood about 1.5 inches tall. And it's cut into 4 different pieces, right? Every cornhole measures about 48 inches long, about 24 inches wide, and once again your math comes into play. So if
Yeah.
you've ever sat there in a math class and wondered, why am I learning this? This is exactly
Make
why.
cornholes.
Exactly, cornholes or anything you want.
Yeah.
If you take a look at something around you, there's math involved in it. And so that's why it's so important for you guys to pay attention and to really understand what's happening here and ask yourself, like, why? So this is one of the plywoods that I've cut already. So normally this hole is about 6 inches. What I do is I take half of it. I use the measuring tape. I take half of that, which is 12, and then from 12 I count 9 inches down. Then I go 6 inches wide, so 3 and 3, the radius.
Oh,
and now we're
wow.
going into circles.
Yeah.
And then I measure that all the way around.
Right.
And so that's how we get the perfect hole.
How'd you cut that out exactly?
So what I would do is I laid this flat,
Okay.
and I went ahead and I took my drill and I put a huge drill bit. Now, do you guys know what a drill bit is?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
Do you know what a drill bit?
familiar.
It's okay. So a drill bit is essentially,
Okay.
it's kind of like the key to a screw. So what I mean by that is you drill this in, it makes a hole, and then you would put like a screw that's almost equivalent to the roundness of the drill bit, right?
Right.
So since I don't have a screw like this, I just did it to make a hole.
Mm-hmm.
Then I use what's called a jigsaw. And a jigsaw.
Yeah. Yep.
And a jigsaw is just something that I'm able to kind of freehand cut.
Mm-hmm.
And so I freehand cut this circle, and as you can see, it's not a perfect circle,
Yeah.
but then I have what's called a grinder, like a sander, and it'll sand down all that wood and make it nice and smooth.
Right.
And so that's, these are just basic tools. I didn't spend a lot of money on them.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just do this for fun. It's kind of a, like a hobby.
For sure.
And so yeah, so if you're interested, go for it. I never had any formal education on this. What I did was just watch a lot of YouTube, like
Right,
everyone
like
else.
You learn anything on YouTube.
Right.
YouTube
There you go.
University.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DIY all the way. So if you guys go to DIY, like you can find anything.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
And so the one big thing that you have to have is you got to have some kind of tools. And so like I said, I didn't spend too much on these tools, but just enough that I can do stuff with it now. But yeah, and especially for girls, I mean, they look at you kind of weird when you're at Lowe's or Home Depot. But at the end of the day, I want to get this project done, and so why don't you just help me pick out a piece of wood, if you think I'm not picking it out correctly, and then you kind of learn from the community, and so it's like people
Right.
teaching people. So yeah, so we have this plywood here, so come on over. So if you guys want to come in here.
Got hands dirty?
A little bit, yeah.
A little something?
Yeah, a little something. I've sanded this before, so you won't get any splinters or
Okay,
anything like that.
that's
I've
great,
never been given a splinter.
Oh, they suck. I've had them before.
Right, they're hard to
horrible.
take
Yeah.
out. So each piece of wood that I will, be providing you, if you ever, need a kit or anything like that, and I have to help you with cutting, will have a marked indicator. And so each board, you got 1, 2, 3, and of course you got 4. And this is one of the
Right.
reasons why you learn Roman numerals, right?
Right.
So each side corresponds with the piece of wood that I've cut right over there. And so if you can see, there's the 4th wood. So if you can bring me a piece of wood. Yeah, it's a little heavy, right? It's a little
Got
heavy.
some weight to it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
for
a
sure.
little bit. But it's sturdy, right? Because you're hitting these with
Right.
these bags of sand,
Oh,
Right.
traveling at a distance. And we're not going to get into all that math, but essentially it's got to be strong enough to hold and not
Right.
crack under
Right.
pressure.
Exactly.
I've seen people like throw it like a baseball. It's crazy. But yeah, it's an underhand. But yeah, so if you can bring me another piece, and then maybe we can start putting this together.
Guess this will go here.
That's
Yeah,
number
that would
one.
go there.
Yeah.
And then Marcus, you want to grab maybe one of those long ones.
Sure. Oh,
Yeah.
this is number 2.
We won't have you do all the heavy work.
This is definitely heavier.
Yeah, definitely.
Number 3.
Yep. And just like that,
Okay,
right? Now
that-
you
yeah.
kind of know
You already
how.
have like the basic frame for it, yeah.
Right. And so this is the frame, right? And so once again, this goes back to your basic math, right? So if I have these, this is going to take up this much space, this is going to take up this much space, and you would subtract, and of course you'd find your middle piece.
Right.
Right.
So you probably have seen this in like a word problem or something like that, but this is it in real life. So what I would do here is I would start matching it up to the corners and making sure everything stays aligned. Some people like to put wood glue. The wood glue would just hold it down, but what we have are exterior screws.
Okay.
And exterior screws are meant for like decks.
Right.
So it'll absorb any kind of humidity and it won't crack and all the things like that.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, so what we're gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna go ahead and drill holes. Normally, if you were to have a kit, it would already be pre-drilled. So all you have to do is just to screw in with either a screwdriver or a drill. And so yeah, so I take a little bit of shortcuts, one of them being a drill. So this only costs about $30. Not
Okay.
too
Wow.
expensive.
Yeah.
Quite
Perfect.
easy to use. You can hang up, frames and things like that with it. So, all right. So one thing that you want to make sure is that you stay center and also going to touch this wood, right? Because if I do this, then I'm not even touching it.
Right. Right.
It's just a straight hole. So I'm going to go ahead and connect, first of all, because it needs power.
Just do it
That
by
might
hand.
be important.
Right. A lot of people like to use battery-operated tools.
Oh no.
I don't. One, because I can't afford it. Two, I really don't find the need to spend that much. It's like 4 times as much as one that's
Oh,
connected.
yeah.
Right.
And then power will never.
You have to deal with charging the battery and all that.
Right. So yeah, so as you can see, it moves because it's not attached yet. So I'm just gonna drill a hole. And so what I did was
Nice.
I just added a
Yeah.
hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I'm gonna make sure it stays aligned again. Now as I do it, it has like this switch, and so this part will go in. And then when I flip the switch, then it'll
Right.
come right back out.
Yeah.
So if you didn't know how to use a drill, now you
Now
do,
you know.
right? Okay, so what we would add are these exterior screws. They're pretty thick.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, right?
And then
The
it's
heavy duty
yeah.
screw.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, these sandbags, when they come at you at a
They
high
will.
speed, you don't want it to break under pressure.
Right.
So then we're gonna go ahead and attach these. And because, you know, I don't want to switch out my drill bits and things like that, I have another drill. And this drill is called like an impact drill. Impact drill is used just for like hardcore, you know, heavy things that go through like concrete or brick or anything like that. I'm just gonna use it for the sake of trying to screw this in.
Gotcha.
So it may be a little bit louder than the smaller drill, but we're just gonna try it out. Once again, it has one of the switches
The
as
same
well.
kind of switch.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna make sure this stays on. I'm already doing it. Of course, I haven't held down the other side, but once I hold it down, then I can go ahead and straighten it out.
Ooh.
It's cool. Now, the reason why you hear like it starts slipping like that, it'll just start slipping is because it's not fully set. So remember, a screwdriver, you know, has like 2 different heads, and so this head's more like a cross. So you want to make sure the crosses are aligned, because if not, it'll slip.
Right.
And then you also want to put force behind it, because this is going to give you power, but if it doesn't have direction, then it's just going off.
Right.
So yeah, so I'm just going to get low, and I'm going to put some pressure on the wood. Ooh, so that's all it is.
Like butter.
Right. So yeah, so we're gonna do that for all 4 corners, and then we will have our our frame, and then I'll show you guys what to do with the top. All right, so that was super fast. Thank you guys for your help.
No problem.
We're gonna go ahead now that we have the frame set up. If you can lift it, see, but now we gotta attach to the top, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So the next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and flip this, since I want all of my symbols to kind of match, and right now they're not matching, but that's okay. We'll just leave it like that. So let's just go ahead and flip. So I guess we'll keep that out. So now we're up top. Yeah, quite heavy. So we have the plywood here. Now, normally you can do a couple of different things. Once again, I still have the sticker on it, so no big deal. I'll just go ahead and sand it on.
Yeah.
But we have the tops. You can do one of 2 things. You can either screw these in, or you can nail them. I prefer to nail them. And Marcus, if you can hand me that box right there.
There you go.
Cool. So these are just common nails. You can buy these anywhere. And it is about 1.5 inches long. I like to cheat. And so the way I'm going to cheat is I have a nail gun. So
Oh.
I'm not...
There you go.
Yeah, right? So sometimes you just gotta know what your strengths are, and I would rather screw and then just have a nail gun. And so
Yeah.
this is a common roofing nail gun. I don't use it for roofing, of course. I use it for my projects, and it saves me my arm strength,
Right.
and it saves me precision in my fingers, right? Because I don't know if you guys have nailed anything, but my
It's
fingers,
no fun.
yeah, right? My nails get super chewed up. So I'm gonna go ahead and nail. And if you would like, would you like to nail?
I would.
Great. So all you gotta do is push down, and you pull the trigger,
Okay.
and it nails done. Now just remember that the piece of wood under it probably goes roughly around here, and so you
Okay.
can go ahead and do this side. We'll switch it, and Marcus, you can do the other side.
Got
For
it.
sure.
So what would
Yeah,
you say?
so-
Just don't point it at anybody.
So like right here?
So as soon as it goes, and then you pull the trigger. Yeah, see?
Nice.
That's it. Make sure
And
it has
then
pressure when it goes
How
down.
many should I put over here?
Just something even. That's fine if you do it right there.
Okay. And then one at the end?
Yeah, one at the end. Right.
Nice.
So you see, right? Your arms feel better. Your fingers aren't getting all mauled up. You don't want to try? Marcus?
No. She just pointed it at me. I'm like,
Oh, no,
Even though I
look.
know it comes with a sensor and all
Right.
that.
It won't do anything.
Yeah. Just.
It is
Let's
scary.
Let's
though.
not do that.
So yeah, so you can go ahead and do
Safety.
that side, and I'll do
Okay.
this side, and then we'll switch it around. There you go. Right, and then I'll do this side.
You're like a pro.
Right?
Right.
You think I was doing like some kind of hard work, right?
No,
All
you
right.
got it.
So we're gonna go ahead and rotate this. Oh, cool. You okay?
Good. All good.
All right, here we go. So you can go ahead and just
Okay.
start there. There we go. And now our frame is stuck to the hole, and now we're good to go.
There you go.
So the
Nice and
next,
sturdy.
right. So the next thing we have is to put our legs. Our legs are going to be about 12 inches. And this is where I'm going to go ahead and introduce the miter saw to you guys. I left a couple to be done. So the miter saw is right over here. So let's go on over there. I'm show you guys how to use it. All right, so guys, this is a miter saw, and what this is a protective shield, and so my
Yeah.
arm won't hit the blade. As we move down, you will see that the blade becomes
Nice.
exposed, and so it's protective. Really interesting story about this tool is that it was a gift from a contractor that saw me at the store looking at one, and I didn't buy it.
Oh, wow.
And he said, hey, you know what? My sons aren't interested in anything, making anything. And I said, well, I am, right? I said, I just want to make like little things. And he said, well, you can have it. So I went to his
nice.
van and he gave it to me. So there's a lot of good people out there.
Right.
It's a little used, so I went ahead and just kind of fixed it up, oiled it, and now, like I said, the table rotates. And so yes, that's a great story about this. So yeah, so there's good people out there.
Right, for sure.
So, as I've told you, I've marked it. They're about 12 inches long. Of course, there are 4 legs. When the first time I did this, I only cut 2. And I was like, oh yeah, there's another cornhole thing I gotta make. So don't forget, there's 4. So what I do is I line it up with this block right here, and I bring it down eye level, and I make sure that the blade is hitting right where that Sharpie's at, and that Sharpie's a little thick. What you have to take under consideration is the thickness of the blade.
Yeah.
It's a little less than a 1/4 of an inch. So that will take off a piece of wood. It will take off, the last piece of wood will be a little smaller if you don't measure it correctly. So that's why I use the thick Sharpie, because then I'll just go straight through the Sharpie and I don't have to measure that. So first thing you would do is hold it down here. Take your thumb out, because if you leave your thumb like this, there's a potential it can get cut off. If you're not
That wouldn't be
comfortable,
good.
right, it wouldn't. If you're not comfortable putting your arm here, there are also these clamps. These are called ratchet bar clamps,
Yeah. There you
and
go.
these will
Yep,
clamp
that's what
into
I'd be
place.
using. Yep.
Right.
She'd be using as many clamps as she could.
Yeah. So it also takes more time, though. That's my thing is
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
time. So you can always hold this tight. Make sure that it's aligned. It is aligned, and then right where my hand is at is a trigger. And so since we're connected, if you go and pull the trigger, is how loud it'll be. Right, heavy duty.
Yeah.
You don't want your hand anywhere near that. So I'll keep
Right.
the one hand here. I have the clamp here. I'll clamp it, make sure that it's held tight, and I'm just gonna go straight down with confidence. Because if you hesitate, anything could fly out, and you don't want that. So once
Right.
it's cut, I'm gonna let it go, and I'm gonna bring it back up slowly, and you'll see the shield come back and cover it. So here it goes. It's a good thing we're wearing masks and goggles, and if you hadn't been wearing goggles, you would have had wood particles all over your eyes. So
Yikes.
you
Right.
don't want that.
Not nice.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
Got
loosen
it
up.
all over my shoes, so I know it wouldn't be nice
Right.
on my eyes.
Right. So now we have one leg. It matches with the other leg,
Perfect.
and now we have a couple more. Did you guys want to give this a try?
I would with the clamp.
Yeah, with the clamp. So
With the-
once again,
I can do this saw.
okay.
No
So
problem.
we're gonna make sure that this is good. Do you want to put on the clamp so it loosens up right here,
Okay, got
and
it.
then you would just.
Got it.
All right. So you can go ahead and clamp it up, and then Marcus, you can go ahead and cut.
No problem.
Wait. I'm sorry.
Click
No,
it.
you're good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right there. So
Got
go
it.
ahead and do a little more. Up until where you can't pump it anymore. You good?
Yes.
Keep letting it.
All right. And then Marcus, you would go up.
Your confidence, Marcus.
Yeah.
Loosen it up.
I know what I'm doing.
There you go. So now we have this piece. We have 3 legs. And so now we're stuck in a rut. And so the rut is, what kind of legs do you want? Do you want legs that swing, or do you want legs that are stationary? So we have a couple of examples of how this would look like when, considering the type of legs you guys want. So let's go ahead and let's go forward and let's take a look at these. All right, guys. So these are the cornholes that are already finished. They're decorated. They're stained. You can essentially decorate a cornhole however you want. So you guys say you guys have played. You guys have either seen plain ones or ones that have like logos
Oh,
or
yeah.
right, exactly. So this is one right here that was made a little while ago, and as you can see, it has the hardware here, and the legs swing back.
Nice.
Sometimes when you have legs that swing back, you can go ahead and store it a little more. And the legs aren't also painted, right? So they don't want to paint the legs. Not a big deal. Remember that cornholes are unique. Unique in style, but not in design, right? So this is a cornhole set just like this. This right here in the middle, this one has, if you lift it up, the legs will not swing down. So this is more of a stationary, one legs, the legs didn't want to be swung, so we didn't have to put the hardware in there, and so it's stationary and it looks just as good.
Right.
The design, like we said, we have an Astros fan. Right here we have somebody's last name, a family last name. You can essentially do this for any gift. I know I gifted one of these for a wedding and they loved it.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't that expensive to make either.
Yeah,
So these are the cornholes. Easy to make, have a good time playing. And so, do you guys have any questions for me?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
This is really
tutorial.
fun to
Excellent.
watch. Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Thank you so much for joining us, Master A, and teaching us, a DIY project that we can do at home by ourselves.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for having me. Marcus, I've had a great time teaching you guys. I know, it gets people inspired, but remember, always think different and you can do anything you set your mind to.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.